Good morning, everybody. John Spiegel here for GAI Insights, giving you the Gen AI news briefing, bringing your top news, essential, important, or optional. We have Ankash Honda, Tim Andrews, Paul Beyer, and yours truly, John Spiegel. We've got all kinds of stuff going on here, everything from a really interesting study put together by Cohere on why you have to build more power in AI in America, all the way through some interesting stuff on new protein and molecule design. So Akash, go into the first article, please.
Sure, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from Anthropic, and it talks about building AI in America.
Yeah, and also remember, folks, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and subscribe. The other thing is that if you want to follow along with these articles, it's GAI Insights /articles, and please feel free to comment. We'll try to answer and work with your comments in the comment field. Okay, yeah, I was on this one. I thought that I was going to give this somewhere between an optional and important. It's really not that important for the day-to-day AI leader, but it does a great job of laying out different things we need to do to grow somewhere between 50 and 90 megawatts capacity between now and about 2030. Between now and 2050, and in the near term, even sooner. 2028. 50 gigawatts of capacity are needed in terms of power by 2028. Sorry for the sloppiness there. And in order to do this, they believe that we need large-scale AI training infrastructure, broad-based infrastructure, and for AI innovation nationwide, as well as better interconnect and transmission. And they have a number of things here around permitting process. It's fairly detailed in terms of thinking through which parts of the legal system you could use, such as certain defense acts that would allow you to build things faster on federal land. They recommend using a bunch of the Western land that's owned by the federal government. As you may know, the vast majority of Nevada, for example, is owned by the federal government. And so it puts together a pretty, I think, interesting set of ideas around why we should build out this capacity in our big competition with China, and then how you might begin to do that and what the three pillars are. Now, that being said, day to day, I don't think this is a worry for the AI leader. It's something that's more context. We're getting more involved with this with one of our customers, actually, that's building out 13 gigawatts of capacity for a behind the meter capability in West Texas. But I was going to give this thing an optional, but an interesting read for anyone interested in the domain. So what do you think here, Tim?
Yeah, I agree. I'm optional for the day-to-day AI leader. I would say this is important to essential as a citizen. You have to read it as a skeptical scientist because, it's written by Anthropic to a certain extent. They're talking their book. They are a big model company that wants lots of power, and they want to do it as cheaply as possible. So they want to get all the permits and everything done the way they like. The most interesting counter to this is to think about, well, is this the best thing to do, just ramp up power? Is the best thing to do to spend a lot of money trying to generate more efficient models at the research level, smaller models that use less energy, because that's a lot easier than building out a ginormous infrastructure. Plus, it's a ginormous fixed cost. Once it's built, it's done. And if suddenly somebody comes up with a model that's 1/millionth the energy consumption, you've got all this fixed cost sitting there doing nothing. So there's reasons to be skeptical about this, but it's an important issue. And as of right now, we don't have those other alternatives. And I'm skeptical that we'll put the research money in to develop them, unfortunately.
Yeah, interesting. I was having dinner last night with a dear friend, Jamie Rosenfield, and he's deep in the energy business. He created the Sarah Week, which is the Davos of energy and so forth. And he said something I didn't realize, that every single kind of energy that has been used by humankind, all but two have done nothing but grow. So we're using more coal now than we've ever used. We're using more natural gas. We're using more nuclear. Any guesses on what the two forms of energy are that actually decreased?
Horse manure.
Nope. No, it's human power. So humans do less in terms of energy in the economy, and whale oil.
Oh yeah.
Every other kind of energy consumption continues to go up, and so yeah, as you say, Tim, how about we pause and think algorithms? All right, Paul, what are you on this? Optional, important?
Yeah, definitely optional for the AI leader because they can't really adjust this, but certainly a critical issue. And it's breathtaking watching Tim to your that really good commentary. I mean, Zuckerberg's doing both. He's hiring massive talent and building massive databases. Front page of Wall Street Journal about another 10 billion going into XAI for data centers, and trying to get another 12 billion on top of that 10. So, but optional for the AI leader.
Akash, we're going optional. What do you say?
Optional, John.
All righty, optional it is. Next.
Okay, the next one comes from OpenAI, and OpenAI Stargate has advanced with 4.5 gigawatt partnership with Oracle.
Yeah, we've got our friends at Stargate starting to actually try to start building stuff. What do you think here, Paul?
This is gossip. Isn't this the day after Wall Street Journal just dropped it, saying that the partnership was at risk? This is absolutely optional. Shouldn't spend the time on this PR gossip war. They're building something down there. It'll get built when it has. Doesn't impact day to day and AI leaders.
Tim?
Totally agree. Somebody was saying yesterday, I can't remember whether it was here or somewhere else. Oh yeah, it was on this show yesterday we were talking about Stargate, and I said, look, this thing's a PR stunt right from the start. There was a small amount of money and a lot of talk, and so what we're seeing here is a small amount of deployment, and we'll see where it goes.
Akash? Totally optional, John. Just a PR stunt.
Yeah, interesting. This whole thing. Again, I was talking with Jamie last night, and he went to the event that Trump put together in Pennsylvania. Well, Trump didn't really put together. The new senator, not Fetterman, but the other guy from Pennsylvania, put it together. And one thing I think to note, at least in the United States, this is going to be big politics in terms of building out power for AI. I didn't realize that Western Pennsylvania as a state is the fourth largest capacity or discovered amount of natural gas in the world. So I mean, they have just an amazing energy store there, and I think we're going to see more and more of this in terms of the relationship between politics, infrastructure, and AI. But optional it is. Next.
Okay, the next one that we have for today comes from Latent Labs, and they have introduced Latent X, which is an atom level frontier model for de novo protein binder design.
Yeah, I mean, is this mind blowing or what? They're claiming in silico improvements on the order of basically 10x in terms of quality. What do you think here, Tim?
I think it's amazing. I think for the general AI leader, it's an everyday miracle. For those in research and drug discovery, it's essential. But it is a product announcement, so we'll have to see where it goes. But, I've been pounding the drum, and I'll continue to pound the drum to say this is going to be the biggest impact in the next 10 years. Maybe climate change will be a bigger impact overall if we don't do something. But in terms of what generative AI's impact on the world is going to be, this is probably it right here. And it's just changing things at an unbelievable pace. So this is now literally down to I can design the exact atoms I need to make a highly binding protein, which is basically the essence of drug therapy. We're basically ginormous tinker toys inside our bodies. And this is finding the right piece to fit into that tinker toy to block or enhance a certain protein's action. And the ability to do that at this level of accuracy, at atomic level of accuracy, is astonishing.
Yeah.
And then, Tim, you start taking that with digital twins of humans and, digital clinical trials for, early assessment. It's breathtaking.
There's a long ways. It's a big leap from here to there. Yeah. But just getting this far is, going from having to randomly try, squid snot, just in case it has something interesting, okay? Yeah. To being able to say, I want to cure a particular type of cancer or a particular disease, and I know the protein target, but I need to find something that will bind to it. And to be able to do that I think they said in something like 100 to 300 samples rather than millions of samples. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
The amount of, still a long ways to go because all the wet stuff, as we call it, is still very complicated. So getting from there to predicting a human's reaction is an enormous leap that we're not even close to. But just getting this far, this fast is a huge advance.
Yeah, as you're saying, Tim, in this part of the article we're showing here is 30 to 100 down from, as you say, thousands or millions of targets, and that's a huge productivity increase. Lucinda loves Quiznot. Yeah.
Yep, it is a product announcement, so we got to keep our, don't count your chickens yet
Yeah.
kind of hat on. But this is AlphaFold has already been out there for a while, which is the original start of all this stuff, and it is changing drug discovery dramatically. It is working.
Absolutely. Paul, where are you on this?
Optional. Sorry, I clicked away.
Let me make the case for important. So here we've got, first of all, as you said, Tim, it's going to affect, humanity. But more importantly, I think that this notion of certain kinds of businesses and certain industries picking out a high value added wins task, as we call them, and to really go deep or into the creation of a new knowledge asset and so forth. And remember, important is still, a discretionary read, right? It's not an essential read. I was leaning toward important because, it just shows how a whole industry's value-added system could be changed. And something I think everyone should be thinking about. Paul and I were talking yesterday with a firm that's doing, massive simulations of product attributes and, making decisions in hours that used to take months. I don't know. What do you think, Akash?
I think essential for life sciences, John, but optional for other AI leaders.
All right. I'm getting outvoted. I'm in a democratic mood this morning. All right. Optional it is. Akash, next. So far, we have a no-hitter.
Yes, John. Okay, the next one comes from Udemy. So Udemy has introduced a new MCP server, which can bring learning directly into the flow of work. So they will be releasing this in August. And John, I think this is an optional news. Basically, they have developed this MCP server, which they sort of hope that other chatbot applications will integrate it or work with it to discover Udemy's content within their chatbot applications.
Yeah, I mean, I know MCP is a big deal in AI, but I found this kind of an odd thing to actually do a product announcement on. What do you think here, Tim?
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting if you've already got Udemy, then maybe this becomes more interesting. I think the idea of having integrated learning into a tool environment is a great idea.
Yeah.
But it's a product announcement. It's not clear how well it works or how many people will really take advantage of it. So I would say optional.
Paul?
Optional.
All right. Let me just share one quick thing here, which is here's a buy-side analysis of Udemy. What we're looking at here is this the uniform return on assets. And even though they've been public for a while, they have a negative return on assets of 12%. And this is asset growth. Their asset base shrank a little bit last year. So, interesting. Here's a company that I think is, even though they're public, is not creating economic value yet. So kind of a weak sister in an important area. All right, optional it is.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This one comes from Google, and it talks about conversational image segmentation with Gemini 2.5.
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, the ability to describe things in a more abstract way. I was going to give this an optional, but kind of fun when you look at what's really going on here. For example, you can describe that figure as you just highlighted there as, the guy with the Frisbee, or there's another thing farther down in the article that talks about, a picture that has, people who are, well, this is one, people who are standing. There's another one about people who aren't wearing hard hats on a construction site. And so this notion of being able to manipulate images, that's the one, manipulate images, analyze them, program a robot with them by having higher level concepts, I think is amazing. I mean, the mind reels when you start thinking about, especially in like military applications, how targeting and things like that. Obviously, these higher level concepts are going to be important, but I think it's optional. What's interesting is that many years ago, I did my thesis on the economic impacts of the adoption of expert systems, which are symbolic AI, and I think we are starting to see this merge between neural network based. I think it was largely inductive, kind of understanding, as well as more deductive, symbolic based. And I think, I forget what they're calling them now, but it's basically going to be a hybrid architecture of a combination of, traditional kind of knowledge networks and semantic graphs and so forth, and the discovery, through the transformers and neural networks. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I think this is another step in that direction. Everyday miracle. It's amazing we can do it at all, but optional. What'd you think, Tim?
Totally agree. Really amazing, really scary in the hands of the military, but totally amazing stuff. And it will have lots of value in various different ways, absolutely, but optional right now. Yep. It's going to take us a while to figure out what to do with it. And when they can apply it to video, it will be even more powerful.
Oh yeah, they have a thing in there, video editing, take out change the shadow of this building. I mean, what a cool thing, right? I mean, Paul?
Yeah, definitely optional. But John, and you and I talking about kind of knowledge work moving to a visual and audio world, and this is just another incredible everyday miracle.
Yeah, and you think about robot training. My goodness, you can now, give a robot all these semantics. It can, walk around, fly around, crawl around the situation.
Yep.
I mean,
totally agree on the world model too. I think the underlying symbolic reasoning models, neurosymbolic, I think it's being called, being integrated in will make these infinitely more powerful. Unfortunately, we don't have a neuroethical model. So
yeah,
while they talk about safety, I'm not so sure that many state actors in the world will care about safety.
Well, I think it's really interesting, Tim. I don't happen to, and my son, is kind of a Kantian, and I argue about this all the time. I don't believe in universal ethics, but we're not even having a conversation about, situational ethics and public good versus private good, and none of that. It's this kind of vague utilitarian function sitting behind these algorithms, that nobody, ever cops to actually making a moral judgment. And I mean, I believe every algorithm has some morality built into it, whether the creator of it understands that or not.
Agree.
And so,
yep,
it's
that's the
time.
problem.
Yes, we have to dig out Mr. Kant and a few others and see if we can get back.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I just heard the White House is starting an initiative in that direction. Ankash.
Optional, John.
All right, optional it is. Next.
Okay, the last one we have comes from AWS and talks about how Kyruus builds a GenAI provider matching solution on AWS.
Yeah, I thought this is kind of cool that this provider matching stuff, and it actually has built into it some sounds like diagnostics. I mean, the example they give is somebody's got sciatic pain and says, "Oh, why don't you go see this kind of a doctor, neurologist and orthopedist." So let's see, who do we have on this? Was it Tim? Yep, Tim. What do you think?
Yeah, I would rate this important. It's it's on the edge for me because there's very little demonstration of economic value and return and that kind of stuff. But this is an important area and one I've written about in the past that I think LLMs as mediators, and this is a kind of mediation between two very different levels of knowledge, is hugely important. So the patient knows very little other than something hurts or something's wrong. The doctors and the medical system know lots, but they express it in languages that are very incomprehensible to most times to the patient. So something that can help a little bit to mediate that is great. So this is an important area. It's a very straightforward architecture, and one that I think will become increasingly popular. This is the hybrid architecture. They're not trying to solve the problem and come with a definitive answer. They're just trying to help somebody get closer. I remember, probably a decade or more ago, the symbolic system psych by our friend Doug Lynette, sadly passed on recently. They did something similar for doctors, actually, because even doctors get overwhelmed by the amount of research. So they did a thing at the Cleveland Clinic where a doctor could type in, "I need to know about something," right? And it would take that and do something like this. It would turn it into a search query that could run it against all the standard medical reference libraries. And it was quite powerful, and it worked usually within one turn or two, a couple of sentences, and the doctor could usually get what they wanted. So these are very powerful where you're doing this 80-20 kind of thing. You're not trying to completely solve the problem, because that's really hard, but you're trying to get an 80% kind of solution that will really help make progress.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Back when we were doing the Udemy thing, Kevin Petrie noted that, this notion of friction of knowledge sharing is declining. I think that's absolutely true. And, and that the importance of that is critical. What's interesting here too, I think, is a lot of organizations, I think, have to think through, where is the influence point going to be for the customer or for the demand? And these folks sitting in front of, by doing doctor, directories and, some notion of, capacity, and you can go in and, make an appointment. They're directing demand. And I think, as you say, Tim, I think in a lot of value chains, the 80% solution may actually direct the demand. So somebody who's less influential in the value chain may actually become tremendously influential, the way Google did in search.
Yep.
And so there's a real, as Kevin points out, the liquidity of knowledge is changing. And strategically, I think that means that the point of influence of the customer is also changing. And a lot of companies ought to
Absolutely.
be keeping
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the conversations I will never forget was our dear friend Alan Kay lecturing a little bit Steve Jobs back in 1983, 1984 on how he needed to take the Macintosh user interface and pay for it to be ported on every piece of hardware in the universe, especially the IBM PC, because that was going to be the control point, because that was the first thing people were going to interact with.
Wow.
And Steve was like, but I can't, Gates is selling this thing for $20 and I'm selling my computer for $3,000. How am I going to do this? He said, I'm telling you, Gates is going to be worth more than you if you're not careful. And he just saw right away. And I totally agree. The interface point, the first interface point, is the lever. And whoever owns, that's why Perplexity is making a lot of waves right now, because they're trying to be that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So important. You're going to ruin our no-hitter. What do you think, Paul?
Definitely important here. I guess my footnote to this, I was with someone yesterday who's got pretty serious stage 4 cancer and been going through 3 months of treatment, and asking the kind of opinion thing that, Tim, you were talking about, is they take the test results, explain to me what are the top 3 questions I should be asking my doctor. He says it's been invaluable for their learning, for the acceleration, for better peace of mind, and the tough questions that the AI is coming up is really challenging some of the doctors as well. So this notion that you have experts on both sides of the equation here is really powerful.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems in healthcare is that the incentive structure in many ways is misaligned, but in particular, the doctor has all the knowledge and authority, but the patient has all the motivation. Right. And so there's a total mismatch in desire and knowledge. So if you can transfer even just a tiny bit of that knowledge to the patient, you're going to make a lot of progress, because the patient doesn't want to be sick, right? The doctor is like, I'm not saying he doesn't want to cure his patients. Of course he wants to cure his patients, but he's got nothing like the motivation of the patient.
And he's got 30 patients that day.
Exactly. He's got a lot of other things on his mind.
It's like that old joke, major surgery happens to me, minor surgery happens to you,
Exactly. Right.
Oh, gosh.
That's a good one.
This one.
Yep. Important for me as well, John.
All righty. Yeah, Kevin's noting the importance of AI empowering consumers of specialized fields. Absolutely, makes knowledge more symmetric, and puts real pressure on professionals in a good way, I think. All right,
Yeah.
the top board. Any announcements, guys?
No, I think probably Ankai, you want to give a quick update on the buyer's guide? I know our team, you were leading the team doing a lot of work on that. I know we're heading. You want to share what you're finding and what we're learning?
Sure, Paul. So we are publishing the buyer's guide next week. So it's an evaluation of around 30 plus vendors on their foundational model capabilities and also their LLM ops capabilities. So we have found some interesting insights for you. So stay tuned for that.
All righty, Tim. Anything from our friends at Manette?
Well, I'll say generally speaking, we publish a lot, particularly on the current healthcare stuff and the HR1. I think we don't like to call it the big beautiful bill, and the effects on Medicaid and the ACA. So if you go to manat.com, you can look up Manat Health Insights, and you'll get a lot of information there that we publish for free, and we run webinars and all sorts of stuff.
Fascinating. Yeah, no, I do encourage people to try out Comet, the new browser from Perplexity, to just understand back to this issue about the control point. It's interesting. And
Have you been using it, John?
I have been, yeah.
What's impressing you about it? I've heard a lot of good things from a lot of people. I haven't had enough time on it yet.
Well, first of all, I think very very nice, clean design, straightforward, kind of modern design. But just the fact of that the top level interface I think, is migrating to a conversation, not a query. And by having that built in, straight at the top level, feels much more natural. That's really the biggest thing. And Perplexity is a good engine. I mean, the way it does stuff and finds sources and everything. So yeah, I have it as my default browser now, and I'm enjoying the experience. There's still things I go back to Chrome for, but most of it's Comet now.
Right.
All righty, that's it. Have a good AI day, hump day. See you all tomorrow, I hope. Bye now.
Great. Thank you, Tim.